Hi everyone, I just wanted to make a video about China, about what's going on right now and the coronavirus situation in China. I know it's probably already been done 1,000 million times, but I have quite an interesting story to tell. Or better yet, I have a friend who has an interesting story to tell. So recently Dan had to come back from the US back to China and had to go through a 2-week quarantine. And I just wanted to show the kind of differences in what they're kind of doing here right now in trying to stop the spread of coronavirus compared to the West. In China right now, they've put in measures to make sure that they can curb the spread, such as temperature checks everywhere. I think I got checked about 12 times, and you have to get checked into every single supermarket, shop, living complex. Just to come into my own apartment complex, I need an entrance card. I'm not going to show you what's written on it because you might find out where I live. They've also introduced these health apps to show that you're fine. And as you can see here, probably best it doesn't focus. I've got my passport photo in there, but that green bit there says no abnormal conditions. So I'm good. So in this video, all I wanted to show is what's going on in China right now in terms of the quarantine and how everyone's getting by. The measures that have been put in place to keep people safe here, such as quarantine rules, temperature checks, and all of that. But most importantly, I just wanted to show this one story of Daniel, who recently just came back from the United States and had to come back into China. I thought the story was so crazy that it had to be shared. So here's the story. I have to apologize for the sound quality. The only place we could film was in a cafe, and obviously there's going to be dropping of knives and lots of different distractions, so I really do apologize. There's nothing else I could do. There is no aim to this video. I don't want it to be a video about, oh, they're doing this or we're doing that. It's nothing like that. I just thought it was an interesting story. Don't read too much into it. Enjoy.
I would start February 10th. I was in Vietnam for vacation and hearing news about the virus spreading and not really having a clue how serious it was. When I finally was able to get a flight back to Beijing because things were canceled, and you know, it was crazy. And then getting to Beijing International Airport, it was like February 10th. I got there at like 11:30 in the morning. And the place was empty. You know, it was like a apocalyptic movie. Coming back on the streets, you know, nobody's there, you know. I decided to, while I had some time, to go back to America, you know, and just, you know, and I remember people telling me, people I was with in Vietnam, and certainly my friends at home, were like, why are you going back to China? You know, it was all in China then. It's just like, don't go back there. And people had serious conversations with me, like, what are you doing? I really want you to think about this. You should just come home, or at the very least stay in Vietnam. But don't go back to China. Anyway, then I fly back to America, and I was concerned coming from mainland China into America that I would be quarantined there, or what are they gonna do? And I get to LAX, man, and it's like, they took my temperature. It's like going to 7-Eleven now. I expected them to just be really serious and like keeping their distance from me. And you know, in America at that point, nobody was taking it seriously at all. I didn't want to make anybody sick. So I'm staying home for 2 weeks, and almost universally it was like, why? Why would you stay? You're not sick, are you? Are you coughing? So nobody had a clue. And so then it's in America, and everything is getting really dark and scary. And I'm looking at what happened in Italy and comparing that to the curve America was on. And it was just like, oh my God, you know, it was just shocking. Then they locked down my city of St. Louis, and things were really turning quickly. And I knew that if I wanted to get back into China, I had to go. I had to go. Then I got a flight to Beijing on that Thursday, which I guess is the 25th. I knew I was going to face quarantine. And that's really when this story started. So I get on the plane. We are diverted to Qingdao, which is a little bit south and east of Beijing.
One of the 12 cities that
you
could get diverted to.
Right. There was so much uncertainty. And from the time we got on the plane, the flight attendants were in full hazmat gear, full face guards, everything. I mean, it was just a really scary. You know, it was, and the plane wasn't completely full, but it was pretty full. And, you know, it was tense. And it was not a long flight to Qingdao, a few hours. And then we get there and they did not even let us in the terminal itself. Like 6 hours, they get us through this medical check, ask us questions, don't tell us anything, and then put us in these different rooms by the rows in the plane. And we sit there, and then they call my name and they call one other girl's name, and then they called somebody else's name from one of the other rooms. And so then they walk us up, they check our bags through customs and immigration, and they put us back on this shuttle bus back out on the tarmac, 3 of us, and there were probably at least 90 people on the plane. Back to the plane and bring us on, and then the flight attendants start moving like they're ready to fly. And it's like, it's just 3 of us, and they're like, it's just the 3 of you.
In a multiple 100,000 jet.
In a full jet,
Yeah.
3 of us going back. And on the way out to the jet, the driver, I guess he didn't know where he was going, but he stops for a while, like long enough, like 30 seconds. We kind of look at each other. And he's just taken us out of the health check, a really scary, serious place. And we're maybe going back out to the jet, and he stops for 30 seconds and then pulls this wide U-turn and starts driving back over to where we were. Like, bring him back. You know, we all looked at each other. I mean, we were just scared to death and panic stricken. And anyway, so then they do bring us to the jet, and they flew us to Beijing. It's the middle of the night, and they put us on this bus there. And in the cold rain, with a full police escort, front and back of us, we go to the International Exhibition Center. And it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And inside of there are hundreds of Chinese staff members. Obviously have been, working. They were pretty tired. There was not a huge crowd of people coming in to do this in the middle at 3 o'clock in the morning. All of them in full hazmat gear. And within 30 minutes, have me on another bus by myself going to some hotel out in Huairou. They're not telling me anything, nothing. Get on this bus. And I mean, they weren't angry or suspicious. It was just a really serious, somber tone. And I mean, I'm more than a little freaked out. And so then we make our way up these winding hills and to this resort hotel that's by this lake in Huairou, and they take me out there and walk me up to this hotel, and then somebody comes out to greet me in full hazmat gear, and it's like, can you stand over there? My bags are here, so I stand over there, and then they, for like the 4th time, disinfect my bags with this spray, and then tell me to pick my bags up and walk me up to my room. And I was there for 2 weeks. They gave me a thermometer in my room, and I had to send them photographs of my temperature twice a day, and that was it. I didn't see another human being for 2 full weeks. And like the guys who would drop off our food outside our door, also in full hazmat gear, they would put our food on a little stool outside of our door, and they would pick up the trash when we put it out there. And other than that, nobody came in my room at all. And during my whole time on this trip back from Tokyo, I did not see one person who was, other than the travelers I was with, that was not in full hazmat gear from head to toe. So it's the morning of, and I've arranged a ride to come and pick me up. And then they questioned the driver coming up, and then it was hung up for over an hour, like with the police on the road up to the hotel. And I'm communicating with this person, and they're like, well, they're not letting me in. They stopped me. They're asking me questions. Fine. So I'm stressed. Finally, they get in, and they walk me out of the hotel. I'm outside for the first time. And I'm walking down this little ramp, and there's a table, and the doctor is there and her assistant. And then there are other probably 10 or 12 Chinese staff members milling about down there doing whatever they're doing, and not in full hazmat gear, just with masks. It was like the first people I'd seen not in full hazmat gear. And they see me coming and they break into applause. And man, I was completely, I was emotional, and I was a little overwrought to begin with, and I was just so taken aback, and I just threw up my arms and, ran down the rest of the way of the hill. And I mean, it was beautiful. So I don't know, that's pretty much the story.
So what do you think of the checks that are still going on in the city?
I think it's serious that China's taking it seriously. You know, watching things unfold in America was scary and sad. I mean, as an American, to watch the lack of a response and just and the way it just swept through and people losing their jobs and the shock, it was hard to watch. I think the Chinese took it seriously, and I think that's why, you know, life is kind of creeping back to normal here in Beijing. You know, one step forward, maybe one step back, as they opened some things up, had some new cases, they're tightening things back up. I think, you know, I'm down with that. I'm down with whatever they feel they need to do to try to minimize this, and you know, I'm glad to be back.
And because we're in a cafe, there was a gentleman just to the right of us, a Chinese guy, who listened to the whole story and listened to some of the remarks that Daniel was saying. He was actually very happy with what he said. And he was a little bit nervous being on camera, so I just decided to not film the rest of it. But yeah, I think just probably best to leave that off screen. Yeah. 2 days after Daniel went into quarantine, China announced that it would be banning all foreigners from being allowed back into the country. So all foreigners that are staying in the country, they're fine because they would have been here for more than 2 weeks, they would have been quarantined and they would have been checked. But if you wanted to come from outside, there is no way you can come back into China right now. Right now, Beijing is considered to be quite safe because the only new cases that can come in are from abroad, and those new cases are being quarantined just outside of the city. So there is no way that those new cases come in touch with the current population. I hope you liked the video. If you didn't, just move on to the cat videos.